magnificent stars of America and the world, it's time for the wonderful, the women, the gay, the black, the Brits, and everything in between for Mr. Have you ever found yourself in a place where nothing seemed to make sense? A time when everything you knew, everything you counted on seemed to disappear, leaving you feeling lost, isolated, or even forgotten? You're not alone. Many of us have walked through wilderness moments, places where we feel disconnected from our purpose, unsure of our next step, or overwhelmed by the weight of our circumstances. But here's what I want you to understand. The wilderness is not the end. It is, in fact, the beginning of something greater. And when I say wilderness, this is not the mountains in the background. This is road. Life often leads us into moments where everything familiar fades into the distance, and we are thrust into a place of uncertainty, discomfort, and challenge. These moments are often referred to as the wilderness. We don't choose the wilderness, it chooses us. And when we find ourselves there, it can feel like we've lost our way. The path forward is unclear, and the surroundings seem barren, like a desert with no oasis in sight. We wonder why we're there, how long it will last, and if there's any hope of emerging from it. The wilderness isn't just a physical place, it's a state of being, a season where we find ourselves separated from the comforts we once knew. It's when the things that once gave us confidence, our job, our relationships, our health, or even our sense of purpose, seem to be stripped away. It's in these moments that the wilderness feels so isolating, like a dark valley that stretches endlessly before us. But the wilderness isn't a punishment, it's a part of life's cycle, a place that challenges us to grow, to evolve, and to discover things about ourselves that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. At the core of recognizing the wilderness is understanding that it's not necessarily a place of failure, but rather a place of transformation. We come to terms with our limitations, confront our fears, and are often forced to let go of the control we thought we had over our lives. There's a reason we're often blind to the wilderness when we're in the middle of it. In our haste to move forward, we don't always recognize it for what it is. A season designed for growth, not defeat. We may try to avoid it, fight it, or even deny it, but it's essential to embrace it as part of the journey. The wilderness can be an opportunity to develop resilience, patience, and faith that can only come through enduring difficult times. It may feel like you're standing alone in the middle of a desert, but God is using this season to prepare you for something greater. Whoa, 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 whoa. Recognizing the wilderness also means accepting that it's okay to be in it. There's no shame in being in a place of struggle. In fact, it's in the wilderness that we learn to trust, not just in the good times, but when things seem bleak. It's when we can't see the way forward that we must believe there is a purpose, even if we don't understand it. The wilderness teaches us to relinquish our need for instant answers and to trust the process. It's about recognizing that though we may not have the control we once thought we did, we are never without divine guidance. We need to see the wilderness as a crucible, a place where the trials of life forge a stronger, purer version of who we are. In the wilderness, we are tested, our foundations are shaken. But what emerges from that testing is a faith that is unshakable, a character that is refined, and a strength that was always there but hidden beneath the surface. When we learn to recognize the wilderness for what it truly is, we shift from merely surviving it to embracing it as a part of our growth. The wilderness is not something to fear, but something to recognize and accept. It's the place where God works when all else fails, and when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable enough, it becomes the place where we are prepared for what lies ahead. The sooner we recognize the wilderness, the sooner we can embrace the process, knowing that we are not wandering aimlessly, but walking toward a destiny shaped by every step we take, no matter how uncertain the path may appear. We often think of struggle as something to avoid, something inherently bad that we should do everything in our power to escape. The natural instinct is to protect ourselves from pain and hardship, to shield ourselves from the emotional or physical toll of life's challenges. But what if the struggle itself holds the very key to our growth? What if the adversity we face isn't something that diminishes us, but something that refines us, that shapes us into the person we're meant to become? Purpose in the struggle is one of the hardest lessons to learn, especially when we're in the thick of it. It's easy to question why we're going through pain, why the road is so difficult, why we're facing challenge after challenge. But the struggle is never pointless. It's a tool, an instrument of growth. Even when it doesn't feel like it, it's in the struggle that we learn to rely on something deeper than ourselves, something greater than our own understanding. Consider the process of forging steel. Steel is made strong through intense heat and pressure. Without the fire, without the struggle, the metal remains weak and malleable, unable to bear the weight of what it was designed to hold. Similarly, our struggles forge the strength and resilience we need to carry the weight of the blessings that will come into our lives. If we are not tempered in the fire of difficulty, we would not be ready to bear the responsibility of success, the capacity to handle new opportunities, or the endurance required for the journey ahead. Every moment of struggle has purpose, even when that purpose is hidden from our eyes. When we are in the middle of a difficult season, it's easy to get lost in the pain, to focus on the negative, and to believe that we will never overcome it. But the truth is, the struggle is actively preparing us for something greater. It forces us to grow in ways we might resist if the path were easy. It challenges our faith, expands our character, and develops our patience. If life were always smooth sailing, we would never know the depths of our own strength. Through struggle, we learn to develop spiritual muscle. We discover that our faith is not a fragile thing that only holds up in good times, but a steady foundation that holds firm even in the storms. Struggles reveal to us the parts of ourselves that need healing and transformation. They force us to confront our weaknesses, to address the wounds we've been avoiding, and to come face to face with the truth we've been running from. But even more than that, struggle helps us to find our purpose. It sharpens our focus. It teaches us what truly matters. When we're faced with adversity, the superficial distractions of life fall away, and we're forced to confront the core of who we are and what we're meant to do. The struggle may make us question our direction, but in reality, it's often through the struggle that we discover our true calling. In the heat of the battle, we find out what we're made of and what we were meant to do in the world. Without the struggle, we wouldn't appreciate the victories as we do. The reward is sweeter when it's earned. The victory is more meaningful when it's born out of hard-fought effort. The purpose in the struggle isn't always immediately clear. But as we move through it, we begin to see how it has prepared us for what's next. It strengthens our resolve, builds our character, and aligns our focus with a higher calling. The struggle becomes the refining fire that strips away everything that doesn't belong, leaving behind only what is true and unshakable. Light is education by day, by night, by season. That's impossible. So in the midst of your struggle, remember that there is purpose. You are not just enduring pain for the sake of it, you are being prepared for something greater. Every trial, every obstacle is a part of your shaping, and it is leading you to the place where you are meant to be. Hold on, because the purpose in your struggle is unfolding, even when you can't see it yet. When life takes a turn for the worse and everything feels like it's spiraling out of control, it's easy to believe that we're fighting alone, that we're facing the dark times by ourselves. The weight of our struggles can often be so heavy that it seems like there is no one to help, no one who understands, and no one who can intervene. But in those very moments, when darkness presses in, divine assistance is closer than we think. God has not left us to walk through the wilderness alone. In fact, He has sent help, angels, messengers, and His own presence to guide us, protect us, and fight for us when we can't fight for ourselves. These divine forces are not visible to our natural eyes, but they are always at work, carrying out God's will and ensuring that we are never left to navigate the darkness unaided. The truth is, we may not always recognize divine assistance in the moment, but it is always present, working behind the scenes on our behalf. When we're in the midst of a storm, it often feels like God is distant, like he's not responding to our cries or seeing our pain. But the reality is that he is closer than ever, surrounding us with his protection and guiding us with his wisdom. Psalm 34:7 says, "The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them." This isn't just a metaphor, it's a promise. When you are in the darkest of times, God's angels are encamped around you, ready to step in when needed, ready to shield you when the enemy comes at you with everything he's got. The divine assistance you need is already in place, working to ensure that you are not overtaken by the darkness. Amen. It's easy to forget about the angels God has sent when our focus is solely on the struggle. But these messengers of light are there to remind us that we are not abandoned. They stand guard, watching over us, whispering words of encouragement when our hearts are faint, and bringing comfort when we feel overwhelmed by the weight of life's burdens. They are not just passive observers. They are active participants in God's plan for your life. They are the ones who deliver God's messages of hope, bringing strength to your spirit when you feel you have nothing left to give. Sometimes divine assistance doesn't come in the form of miraculous signs or dramatic interventions. Sometimes it comes as a quiet whisper in the midst of your chaos. It can come as a sudden clarity, a shift in perspective, or a deep sense of peace that settles into your heart, even though nothing around you has changed. When you're surrounded by confusion and fear, God's assistance often arrives as a still small voice, reminding you that he is with you, that he is in control, and that you are not fighting this battle alone. Sure! Even when you can't see or feel his presence, God is moving in the unseen realms. The battle is not just physical, it's spiritual. And while your eyes may be fixed on the visible struggles, angels are waging a battle in the spirit, pushing back the forces of darkness and ensuring that your life will not be consumed by it. There's a spiritual army on your side, and its power is greater than anything the enemy can throw your way. In dark times, divine assistance is never far off. God is always ready to intervene, even when we are unaware of the help around us, when everything seems lost, when the path is unclear, and when we feel overwhelmed. We must remember that we are not walking this road alone. God's angels are encamped around us. His presence is within us, and divine assistance is already at work in the unseen realms, ensuring that we will make it through to the other side.